Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of my Immigrant Diary, the space where we unpack the journeys, the struggles, and the headlines that defines the immigrant experience. My name is Precious, and as always, my buddy, Wally. Wally, how you doing?
Good to see you, my brother. I am happy to be
Always,
here.
always good to see you, man.
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy. It's a sunny day in Pacific
Yeah,
Northwest, especially in Seattle area. So it's rare, and this is the time of the year where everyone is going to be at the limited amount of beaches that we have. Maybe it's not unlimited, not limited, but you're going to see a lot of crowd at beaches even during weekdays, just because we have limited amount of sunshine.
well, speaking of the beach, right? In terms of going to to the beach it's called the Railboat Beach somewhere in Delaware. I'm thinking of going there sometime in August before the end of the summer. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I have a few friends who've gone there. They have lodges, they have hotels. It's just it's a holiday kind of center where
Huh.
you can find a good hotel, spend the night. They also hotel at the beachfront. So it just depends. But yeah, that's on my
Nice.
calendar. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Sounds
Yep.
like a
Yep.
lot of fun. Are you going to go fishing or something
Fishing.
in
I
the
don't think
Pacific?
so because although you're right, they have a lake. I think they
Atlantic.
have a lake. Yeah, yeah, they have a lake where people who don't want to go to the beach can go fishing and other stuff,
Okay.
kayaking and all that. Yeah, yeah, they do actually. You're right. They do. I never thought about that. 'Cause I don't understand the idea of fishing, catching the fish and throwing it back to the water. Yeah. I don't understand the idea of that. People go fishing, if they catch fishes, they take pictures and throw them back in the water. As a man who grew up, as a young man growing up in Nigeria, I cannot understand what that is. So
Yeah.
not just in Nigeria, in the riverine part of, let me specify, Raleigh. As someone who grew up partly in the riverine part of Nigeria,
hmm
that is really strange for me.
Yes. So I think it's something that has to do with city life. Most people
Yeah.
grow up in a city that they don't really need to hunt for fishes for food or sustenance. So they really mostly
Yes.
just get their fish from the store. So this one just becomes like a hobby.
We begin today's episode with a tragedy that has sent shockwaves through both the Nigerian community and the wider diaspora community in New England, USA. Father Benjamin Madu, a 54-year-old Nigerian Catholic priest who had been serving in Massachusetts, tragically died by suicide. While the news hit so hard that people are so confused about this story. So it reads that Father Madu had been serving as a hospital chaplain and parish priest on Cape Ann since 2021. His R1 religious worker visa was set to expire, but reports indicate his home diocese in Nigeria instructed him to return home earlier than expected for a new assignment. According to reports, returning to Nigeria was not his wish, but something forced by circumstances beyond his control. Community members and advocacy groups pointed out that the intense emotional distress and panic he suffered prior to death, especially given the ongoing security issues and challenges for clergy people in some parts of Nigeria.
Yeah, this is so sad. It looks like the priest had a lot of challenges, with being able to return to Nigeria. And like you said, like there are definitely a lot of issues, a lot of security issues going on in Nigeria. There are challenges to welfare of people, whether it's physically, whether it's mentally, whether it's economically. There are all sorts of challenges. But so far, we don't have any suicide note or anything like that. But it is something that we should keep in mind, that a lot of people are very afraid to return to that kind of situation. Even if that person is a religious leader, this kind of situation can be very dangerous for them. So my condolences to the family. I really hope that they are able to be strong in this kind of situation. And also to the church, really, whether it's the church that is he was leading in Massachusetts, or to the church that was expecting back in Nigeria. It's definitely a big loss. Someone who is actually that experienced and has been serving for a very long time is a big loss. It's always gonna be a big loss to the community.
Yeah, Wally. I mean, it is a difficult conversation, but there's a part of this that I realize people don't talk about the psychological impact of immigrants who are being deported, who are being asked to maybe go back, or for whatever reason, who have lost their, visa benefit or immigration benefit, will not have to return. Depending on the situation, I know it's an area we've not had the opportunity to touch deeply on, which is the psychological and the emotional impact and distress that people feel when they lose this benefit and they have to return. Especially people are coming from maybe really difficult, who came from a very difficult situation to be able to move to a more stable economy and society. That is a difficult place to be. I don't know what it feels like. I've never been trying to, empathize with the situation. I'm beginning to realize that it is really difficult. Just thinking about where I am right now, I'm being asked to leave everything and go back to Nigeria at the moment when I'm not prepared for it. It's not like, I have enough time to walk towards that to return, make plans. Sometimes these things are sudden because when people lose their, for example, student maybe visa, for example, is going to expire, or you're applying for extension and it was denied. Usually people are told maybe in 1 month, 30 days, to return, sometimes even 50, less than that. And they have no concrete plan of what they're going to return to, what, and all of that stuff. So it can be really, it's something that, needs to be talked about, and I don't know if there are centers out there to kind of help people, adjust with moving back to whatever situation they were, running from. For some of them who are seeking asylum, who have, tried to have run away from, have escaped with their lives and with their family, and now been asked to go back to a situation they were running from. So can't even imagine what it feels like. So that's one of the ways I want to look at this beyond just what the priest represented. I want to look at it from a human point of view. Moving to policy news. If you are currently in the US or an F1 student visa, a J1 exchange visa, or an I visa for media, or if you plan to study in the US soon, pay very close attention to this next topic. The US Citizenship and Immigration Services and the DHS have finalized a ruling that officially eliminates what was known as duration of status for F, J, and I non-immigrant status. So for those of you who do not know what the duration of status is, I'm going to quickly explain. Historically, when an international student enters the US, their I-94 immigration record was marked D/S, duration of status. That means as long as you were enrolled full-time and making progress in your degree program, whether it's 4 years or it takes 5 years, or if you transferred degrees, you were legally in status without specific calendar expiration date on the US record. But under the new and final rule, that flexibility is replaced by a fixed admission period. Student and exchange visitors will now be admitted under a specific date, generally matching their program length, but capped at a maximum of 4 years.
So
crazy.
Yeah. So if I understand this correctly, it means that like technically students could stay as long as they wanted previously before now.
Yeah. So previously they have duration of status as long as you are in. So duration of status means as long as you are meeting the obligation of your visa. So the obligation of your visa is that you are enrolled in school, even if you defer. That's why you hear stories like people come into the country, they defer 1 year because maybe they needed to work and raise some money, or some whatever reason people defer 1 year and all that. And they're in status so they can stay. So there are some ways, even after you finish, you can defer. You can also from that apply for school. Maybe after your 4-year degree, you can apply for another 4-year degree or 5-year degree and continue in that duration of status without having to go through USCIS. It's just like an extension to continue staying. So that was one part we lost. Students try to stay, they register for school again and they keep staying. Hopefully I think they'll be able to qualify for green card or to qualify for some pathway to stay permanently in the US.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't affect your qualification for primary residency, regardless. No matter how long you stay, until you start something like you actually.
I take that back. Yeah, I take that back. Actually, just basically, people find a way to extend their stay in America. And also, they can apply for OPT and all that, but that extension after. But right now it's capped. 4 years, you finish the school, you go back.
Yeah. So, well, that's fine. I think it makes sense as far as the administration is concerned. I'm not sure why they are doing this.
Oh yes.
Is it an economic situation? Because as a
No, it's
student,
not.
like you said, if you have a student visa, you cannot work. You cannot work more than 20 hours per week. The question is, what's the economic impact? I've never heard of students applying for benefits. I don't think that's a thing in this situation. I'm trying to understand exactly why.
Honestly, Wale, I don't know. But what I suspect is the current administration is hard on immigration, irrespective of whether it's illegal or legal, right? They are hard on immigration. That's the
Yeah.
first part.
Yes.
So based on that premise, we can conclude that this is one way to foster the lack of another word, hardness or grip, right? The grip on immigration. So basically, the current administration is saying we don't want people to be able to just extend their stay by just filing an I-20. We don't want students to be able to do that anymore because they don't need to go through USCIS to do that. They just extend. They don't need to file in a new process. But with this, they have to file in a new process. You cannot just basically apply for OPT and get it. No, now you have to literally go to USCIS and apply. You no longer get like an updated I-20 from your school because you can get it through your school in the past. Now you can't get it through your school. You have to go through your USCIS.
Yeah. So another problem that I see with this is that currently the immigration process for any kind of legal immigration is already very tight and hard for a lot of people.
With a lot of backlog.
Years to get anything done. So it looks like this is basically just going to extend the backlog of USCIS. And that means that people will have to wait years again for this kind of application. My hope is always that hopefully the policies that is coming from the administration, this administration or the upcoming administration is going to benefit the United States. But so far, I'm not sure if I see, I'm trying to figure out what is the upside, which I'm not exactly seeing, except for, like I said, the stance of the current administration is a lot more stricter, a lot more, they do want to reduce immigration, whether it's legal or not. So yeah.
So it's the policy, but I think one obvious impacts immediately will be a decline in the number of international students trying to come to the US to pursue advanced degrees. That's a clear, that's one clear one I can, think of right now. But there are many other indicators or many other impact that would happen as a result of this. So we'll see as it goes. Let's pivot to some positive global news. For anyone listening who is looking to make a move or find a place where foreigners feel truly embraced, Portugal has once again made the global spotlight. So according to recent global expat surveys and ranking, Portugal continues to hold its ground in the top 10 most welcoming destination worldwide for expat and foreign residents. It is not hard to see why. Between the Mediterranean climate, vibrant cultural heritage, high safety ranking, affordable healthcare, and welcoming locals, Portugal has become a massive hub for retirees, remote workers, and families. And for me, as a Ronaldo fan, I will visit Portugal.
That's very interesting. If you take a look at the article, of which I'm going to leave the link again below, there are a list of top 10 countries that are the most welcoming. The number one, which for me I totally was not expecting, was Iceland. So I totally was not expecting that people are actually moving to Iceland. And Iceland is definitely one of the coldest countries in the world, but it ranks the highest as the most welcoming, which I don't know why that is. I have no idea why that is. But yes, it's Iceland and there's Luxembourg. Luxembourg has a very small population, but pretty much half of Luxembourg is made up of immigrants, which is also very interesting. Then, of course, we have New Zealand is there. Australia is there. I'm not sure why those countries are also rank very high, given that they are far from most people in the world. So
that's why they rank high, because the fewer visitors they get, they embrace.
Maybe that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So if I get 10 visitors and I embrace 9, I get a 90% score.
Yeah.
If I have 20 visitors and I embrace 15, I get a 75% score.
Yeah.
Note, score by percentage, but in actual number, the second option had 15. You get, so it all depends on who's reporting the analysis.
Yes, but it's
But
also
nevertheless,
it's always good to
that
know.
doesn't take it away. That doesn't
Yeah,
take it.
that's
Sorry,
why
cut you.
it's
It doesn't
always
take it
it's a
away. Yeah.
useful tool that you can determine that. Let's say you're thinking about moving, let's say to Iceland, for example, you have to think about, okay, fine, what's going on in Iceland that I can be a part of economically or business wise, or what can I contribute to when I'm moving there? Then you can take time to study the country, and if you have similar values and also you have complementary benefits to each other, then you can decide, okay, fine, Iceland is one of them. And if Iceland makes a lot of sense, you go to Iceland. Plus New Zealand and Australia, they are not too far below. So you think about that and you think, oh, if I don't want to go to one of the coldest parts of the world, I can go to a place that has a warm weather. So you have options on this list. And like you said, Portugal is also on the list. Portugal is fantastic. They have fantastic weather. So if you also want to move to Portugal, you have the option to move to Portugal. So I think the list is very useful. It helps you to be able to weigh your options and think about how you want to invest your time and money into which country you want to move to.
And fun fact, Portugal is one of the countries hosting the next FIFA World Cup. So just maybe
I didn't even know that. I wasn't keeping tabs on that.
Yep. So it's Portugal, Spain, and Morocco hosting the next World Cup. I think that's in 4 years. So that's in 2030?
2030, yeah.
2030. You might just see me in Portugal, You might just see me in Portugal. But nevertheless, finally, this leads us directly to our final discussion topic today. The rise of global remote work and digital nomad visas, and how they are completely redefining the line between who gets called an expat versus an immigrant. Over 60 countries now offer digital nomad visas, allowing location-independent professionals to live and work legally overseas for a year or more. But it has reopened a classic debate. Why is a Western professional working on a laptop in Bali or Lisbon called an expat, while a skilled worker or student moving from Africa, Asia, or Latin America labeled an immigrant?
Yeah, so I think it's probably has to do a lot more with political situation that we have in a lot of countries in the world. When politicians who are against people moving to the country, when they want to use the word, they use immigrants, right? Now, the experts means that you have the skills that the country needs. An immigrant doesn't necessarily just talk about that you have the skills alone. They might talk about whether you're an asylum seeker or you have something else, or whatever category that they want to put you in. Regardless, expats and immigrants is something that is still needed all over the world. Like from what we just talked about, you have a lot of countries that are welcoming to immigrants. If other countries are reducing the immigrants that are coming to them, other countries are increasing or at least being open to more immigrants, because they know that the loss of these countries that are reducing immigrants coming to those countries is a gain of their own country. So a lot of countries are definitely going to be taking advantage of that.
Anyway, well spoken. And that brings us to the end of the episode today. Please stay with us. Whether you are planning to travel to Portugal or you are dealing with the psychological or emotional part of leaving the country where you are and back to where you're probably, running from, stay tuned as we bring you more information, education, and interesting content.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you in the next one.
All right then.